Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you my idea to pitch for the way to abuse Oath of Moment like everybody else is pitching right now. From a non-Dark Angels backslash Space Marines player. So, if there's a reason that this doesn't work, feel free to tell me into the comments, but from what I understand, this idea could be nasty, and if it doesn't work for buffed Oath of the Moment, then it is just an interesting list I put together in general. So, Oath of Moment got buffed. You can pick a target, reroll hits, and if you don't have any of the keywords listed in front of us from, special chapters, no codex divergent chapters, non codex compliant, whatever, +1 to wound on that target as well. So, naturally, we've all been figuring out how to get through that without taking any chapter specific things. And well, today my vote is Dark Angels because one thing that I noticed after reviewing Lions Blade Task Force and well, Dark Angels rule is that other things can gain Ravenwing and Deathwing keywords, but from what I understand, they don't gain the Dark Angels keyword, which means that if you don't take any of these people or things, they can still get the +1 to wound. And now, why am I back to Lion's Blade? First off, I still have faith in it. Second, I want to give +1 to wound from Oath, and then Illuminating Fire for shooting phase on top of that. So that's what we're focusing on. Your shooting phase just after a Raven Wing unit from your army has selected its targets. That Raven Wing unit select one enemy unit within 12 inches of your unit that was selected as a target of one or more attacking units' attacks until the end of the phase. Each time a friendly Deathwing unit makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, +1 to wound. So, I want a lot of +1 to wound to burn the shit down. And because I like wounding apparently +1edly, I, of course, finally turned to the Chaplain on Bike. Why the Chaplain on Bike? Well, also, people are making bike units work lately. Between Virtus Praetor Custodes and quite a few lists that was either from Black Templars I saw, people have been giving the Ravenwing Detachment a second chance. I've been seeing a lot of bikes do things, so I wanted to pitch this one on that one too. So the Chaplain on Bike with the Outrider squad will become Raven Wing in Lions Blade Task Force. Therefore, with the Chaplain on Bike giving +1 to wound for melee attacks, also with Catechism of Fire. Each time this model's unit is selected to shoot, you can select one enemy unit within a foot of and visible to this model. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in this model's unit have devastating wounds ability when targeting that enemy unit. You take that, and you take the Outriders. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if this unit made a charge move this turn, improve the strength and damage characteristics of that attack by 1. So you're buffing your strength and damage for your melee weapons, going up to 5 or 7 on the charge. You're increasing the damage from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. But then you're also +1 to wound because of the chaplain, assuming this isn't your Oath of Moment target, and during your shooting phase, you are getting devastating wounds for your range profile. It's not the most to write home about, but it's something. And you can then turn on Illuminating Fire for a Deathwing unit, because you are now a Ravenwing unit, to get +1 to wound. And in Lion's Blade Task Force, you have Knights of Iron, so your Ravenwing unit, cough cough, the Chaplain on Bike with the Outrider squad, um, can move through terrain features for a normal advance or charge move. Now, that's 2 CP to do both of those in one turn, but for the sake of maybe not always needing to go through a wall, you have that in your back pocket, and maybe not always needing the +1 to wound, you have that in your back pocket. That seems pretty okay to me so far. Now, that's just with the Chaplain on Bike, and what would we turn on? What Deathwing unit would we like to turn on +1 to wound? Well, As we can see here, interesting things can get the Deathwing keyword, such as a Land Raider Redeemer, with two Flamestorm cannons that are 12 inches, ignores cover, torrent, because they're flamers, d6 plus 3 per, so 2d6 plus 6, flamer, so auto hitting, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2. That means that with plus 1 to wound from the illuminating fire, you are wounding up to, well, let's go with T12, because that would be 6s to 5s, and then 11 and under, 5s to 4s, with 2d6 plus 6 shots at minus 2 damage 2 with a Land Raider Redeemer. Why a Land Raider Redeemer? Because it does have assault ramp. Again, this is just an idea. What could use assault ramp? I don't know, maybe a Depthus Astartes infantry that has now received the Deathwing keyword, such as something like Blade Guard vets that are getting reroll hit rolls of 1, and maybe they're attached to a chaplain for plus 1 to wound. Oh, let's see. Reroll hits, admittedly of 1 instead of the entire hit roll. Plus 1 to wound. Sounds like you're doing your Oath of Moment cheese all over again with Chaplain and Blade Guard Vet Squad possibly coming out of a Land Raider Redeemer. Now, that's an expensive package. What's another option for something that has decent shooting? Maybe can transport. Repulsor Executioners. Now, the Executioner part, each time this model makes an attack that targets a unit that is below half strength, add 1 to the hit roll. Leave it here, leave it there, it's okay. But for a decent variety of guns, such as a 72-inch heavy laser destroyer that is heavy, 2 shots, hitting on 3, strength 16, AP 4 damage, D6 plus 4, plus 1 to wound, that means something would go pop, right? And that could be something that wasn't your Oath of Moment target, that could be your Outrider squad priming something with Illuminating Fire on one and Oath of Moment on another. Repulsor Executioner is a transport. Can't get the assault ramp, but you could still deploy some Blade Guard vets and chaplains. And the regular Repulsor is okay, but I think that you could also bring this for 1 cheaper, but 2 for funnier. Um, Emergency Combat Embarkation. Once per turn in your opponent's charge phase, after an enemy unit has selected targets for its charge, but before it makes a charge move, you can select 1 Space Marine unit from your army that was selected as a target of that charge, provided that unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, and every model in that unit is within 3 inches of this transport. It can embark within this transport. That charging unit can then select new targets for its charge. So, we know that Lions Blade Task Force has some funny shenanigans with fight phase, charge phase, right? Because for 2 CP, you have Inescapable Wrath. End of your opponent's charge phase, 1 Deathwing Infantry or Deathwing Walker unit from your army that is within 6 inches of 1 or more enemy units and would be eligible to declare a charge against 1 or more of those enemy units if it were your charge phase. Your unit can now declare a charge, and if it's successful, you don't get the charge bonus, i.e., fights first. So, that's a long way of saying that for 2 CP, you can charge in your opponent's charge phase without needing them to charge. We understand what it does now. And if they don't manage to charge the unit that they wanted to because it jumped into a repulsor, and then your infantry or Deathwing Walker then charges that unit, I think that's really fucking funny. What are those units that it could possibly be? You could attach Judiciaries to, again, Blade Guard vets to give them fights first if you really care about the fights first bonus like that. I do also want to point out, now again, this is expensive on command points, but if you don't go with the Judiciary and you are talking Deathwing unit, you do still have the option of Strength and Unity, into which, after an enemy unit has selected its targets, if the strength is greater than the toughness of your Deathwing unit target, -1 to wound. If you have 3 CP to do this, and if you feel you really need it. If you spent the 2 CP to pop this, well, you probably don't have any more CP. Yeah, I mean, hey, there's ways. But it is pretty funny that you could have a backup plan of -1 to wound, assuming the thing that they really wanted to went into a repulsor. There's also the fact that the Brutalis Dreadnought does obtain the Deathwing keyword. So, the Brutalis Dreadnought, each time this model ends a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range of it and roll 1d6. On a 2 through 3, d3 mortal wounds for that opponent's unit. On a 4 through 5, that enemy unit suffers 3 flat, 3 mortal wounds flat. And on a 6, d3 plus 3 mortal wounds for 160 points and 2 CP. Your opponent will be caught out guard by now a Deathwing Walker. But that's just some funny shenanigans I found you can do. The other thing I wanted to highlight really quickly is that you don't have to just use the Outrider squad to prime. I just figured that'd be the most efficient thing. So no matter what it is, using devastating wounds will start priming up and softening whatever you are then needing to shoot with a Land Raider Redeemer or a Repulsor Executioner. But there is also the option of the Storm Speeder Hail Strike and the Storm Speeder Hammer Strike, becoming Ravenwing. Alright. And choosing a target, much like the Outrider squad, each time this model has shot, select one enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles hit by one or more of those attacks, until the end of the phase. Each time a friendly Adeptus Astartes unit makes a ranged attack that targets that enemy unit, improve the AP plus 1. So plus 1 AP, plus 1 to wound for 115, not too bad. Has Deep Strike. And then we go to the Hammer Strike, into which each time this model has shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more attacks made by this model this phase. Until the end of the phase, that enemy unit cannot have the benefit of cover. So a different way of plus 1 AP, basically. But, the benefit of cover gets removed. It really depends on necessarily what you need in the moment. Probably you're looking at their weapon loadouts to really make the difference here. Do you want Melta? It also has Deep Strike for 10 more points, or do you need clear the little shit with the I almost said Storm Speeder Hail Strike. So I think Storm Speeders, Repulsors, Outriders, Chaplains, Blade Guard Vets, Brutalis Dreadnought, any combination of that probably can boost up Lions Blade Task Force and give you the cheese with Oath of Moment. Again, from what I understand, I don't believe that you tack on the Dark Angels keyword when you do this, because it says drawn from the Dark Angel chapter, but it technically doesn't say that you give them the keyword from how I'm reading it. So that's just my shout for something that can be a little bit more deadly than anybody's given credit right now. For example, I'm seeing, well, we all know that Dark Angels players are kind of better off. For some of their units, they're better off playing, default Space Marines Codex shit. For example, I noticed that the Lion was in Stormlance recently. I was like, well, at least people are taking the Lion. So, just if you're looking for Lion's Blade Task Force or looking for another way to exploit Oath of Moment, I believe it should work, but if not, that seems like a funny enough list, considering whatever points you have. To run and give it a try between Illuminating Fire, Outrider squads, Prime and shit with devastating wounds, then your other shit has devastating wounds, maybe your Land Raider containing Blade Guard Vet Chaplains and your Chaplain on bikes. It just all seemed pretty nice, and if I was a Dark Angel Space Marine player, it'd be something I would at least be trying right now. So yeah, if you liked the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.